tensions building up in India and Pakistan as India says its latest military strikes on Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir were aimed at terrorist camps. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif calling it an act of war and vowing a response. The escalation is coming 2 weeks after the deadly terror attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, where 26 civilians were killed. India's foreign ministry addressed the media in the last hour. They confirmed that 9 targets were struck in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir and said the operation was backed by precise intelligence aimed exclusively at terrorist camps. Officials stressed that no Pakistani military installations were hit and every effort was made to avoid civilian casualties.
India exercised its right to respond and preempt as well as deter more such cross-border attacks. These actions were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate and responsible. They focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India.
Earlier, multiple loud explosions were heard in the Pakistan-administered Kashmir region close to the mountains around the city of Muzaffarabad. And witnesses said the city's power was blacked out. The Pakistani military saying there were 24 impacts at 6 locations. And Pakistan's military spokesperson has confirmed that at least 26 civilians have died in the strikes. 46 people are said to be injured. The Pakistani military says it will retaliate at the time of its own choosing. It also claims to have shot down 5 Indian fighter jets. India has not confirmed this.
Pakistan will now respond and respond very, very effectively. Make no mistake, because our desire for peace should not be mistaken for our weakness.
Both sides exchanging gunfire in the Kashmir region. Indian Army is saying there have been 7 civilian casualties in Pakistani shelling, up from 3 earlier. Flight disruptions have been reported in Pakistan and northern India as planes going to and coming from India avoided Pakistan's airspace. Several airlines, including Indigo, Air India and Qatar Airways, have also canceled flights in the region. And joining us now with the latest is Ishan Garg from New Delhi and Hira Mustafa from Islamabad. Ishan, I want to start with you. India's defense ministry has just given a press conference on Operation Sindoor as reports of civilian death toll is rising in Indian-administered Kashmir. So what's the situation at the border like right now?
Well, the border situation certainly remains very, very tense because, as we have seen for the past 8 hours now, the Indian and Pakistani army, they have been engaged in gunfire. The Indian army has put out statements saying that civilian deaths have been confirmed on the Indian side, and they say that India has been responding, in their words, proportionately to the alleged ceasefire violations of the line of control, which is the de facto border between India and Pakistan. For the very first time, we have also heard the Ministry of External Affairs come out along with the representatives from the Indian Air Force and Indian Army, putting out, setting the record straight in a way to say what exactly has happened as part of Operation Sindoor. They briefed the media and really took that opportunity to not only talk about this particular military operation, but also put India's perspective out on terrorism and the cost that India has faced because of it in the past 20 years. The Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson who was on this occasion was India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, said that these operations were carried out within Pakistan-controlled territories of Kashmir and Pakistan's mainland as well, saying that a total of 9 sites were hit, and almost all of them were controlled by 2 major terrorist organizations, according to the Indian officials. And the 2 organizations are Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. Now, Lashkar is the organization that Indian officials say is behind the Pahalgam terrorist attacks that took place on April 22nd. And the civilian lives that were lost, India now says that its military strikes on these terrorist installations and infrastructure have been a response to that.
And Ishan, you provided the Indian perspective, but Hira, what has Pakistan's military have said about this issue? What are their updates on the situation at the border right now?
Well, as Ishan already mentioned, that the situation at the line of control, the de facto border that separates Pakistan-administered Kashmir from Indian-administered Kashmir, the situation is pretty tense. Just a while ago, Pakistan's military spokesperson, while addressing the media, has stated that Indian side is using artillery shells and as a result of the unprovoked firing from the Indian side, 5 of the civilians has been injured. So tensions are running high between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. And he also stated in the press briefing that Pakistan has shot down 5 of the Indian aircrafts, and it had the capacity to shot down more, but has exercised maximum restraint in order to avoid the escalation. He has also stated that India has targeted the dam structures at Neelam Jhelum hydropower projects, and this comes at a time when India has unilaterally suspended the Indus Water Treaty, a major water sharing agreement which has sparked anger in Islamabad. And we have seen in the past couple of weeks strong statements coming from the defense minister stating that if India tries to change the course of water or divert the flows of waters flowing from New Delhi to Islamabad, Pakistan will take it as an act of war. So tensions are pretty high. He also stated that India has targeted the mosque compounds in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, and those mosque compounds are located in the civilian areas, thus rejecting the allegations leveled by India that they have targeted the terrorist hideouts, stating that there are no terrorists operating at Pakistani soil. He also stated that Pakistan will retaliate at its own conditions and time in response to the airstrikes that are being conducted by India overnight. So tensions are pretty high, and the local communities along the line of control are concerned and worried about the escalating situation between the two nuclear-armed neighbors.
Hira, as the situation and the tensions are just mounting on, Prime Minister Sharif is supposedly chairing a National Security Committee meeting. So what are the options that are currently out on the table?
Well, absolutely. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has convened this national security meeting on urgent basis in light of the escalating security situation on both sides of the border. What we're hearing from the government sources is that the top military officials, along with the federal ministers, will be participating in this national security meeting, and the agenda would be to brief the federal ministers and the prime minister about the security situation at the line of control and Pakistan's military preparedness in order to tackle any kind of escalatory move if India might take in next couple of hours. There are also reports that right after the national security meeting, Pakistan's prime minister will be addressing a nation, which itself highlights the gravity of the situation, as we have been reporting since morning that tensions at the line of control are pretty intense, and there are reports of crossfire and heavy shelling at the de facto border. So these are the topics that will be dominating the discussions at national security meeting.
Not only there, also apart from the domestic front, we're also seeing on the international front a demand for peace. And Ishan, the Iranian foreign minister is due to arrive in New Delhi today. So do you see any scope of mediation at this point in the conflict?
Well, given the statements that we've seen from India's defense minister, India's Ministry of Internal Affairs, India's Home Minister Amit Shah, and as well as the opposition parties, it seems that India's position right now is to say that the military strikes that have been carried out, the entire Indian political establishment is proud of it. And at a moment like this, the question really is, is there any space for mediation? And diplomats, ex-diplomats, foreign policy experts would say that the trust deficit between New Delhi and Islamabad, that chasm is so wide at this moment that mediation might not be a possibility. Another question could be, if there is a possibility of mediation, is Iran the correct party that can bring these two sides to the table? To which many foreign policy experts would say that's probably not the case, because Tehran, even though it's an important trade partner for New Delhi, an important energy partner, it perhaps did not bring that political heft to the table. Because we've also heard from the United States, Secretary Marco Rubio saying that he's been holding conversations with his Indian counterpart and Pakistani counterpart. So there is a sense from the international community that this escalation of tensions between the two sides should stop. But the question of whether is there going to be mediation possible, that seems unlikely, because Indian officials have said that they are still assessing the situation on the ground. And as far as the border situation goes, that is still very, very tense.
Based on both of your reports, what we can tell right now is that though peace is demanded, the situation seems to be dire. That was Ishan Garg in New Delhi and Hira Mustafa in Islamabad. Thanks for those updates.